Wow. Living on the St. Claudius. Where's this at? I don't know.
Are you guys recording again, Chandra?
Right now.
So apparently the copier was the weakest link on our team right now, and we did not get the second page of the, or I'm sorry, the first page of Article 9, the Union Representatives article. So this was probably one that we could have scrapped and done totally anew, because the terminology used by the Teamsters is different than the terminology used by IUPA. But what we've done is tried to import the IUPA terminology in to replace the Teamsters terminology. IUPA has a business agent, and then the president or the president's designees then would constitute representatives, as it's then defined. And then what we've added here is as we sit in the Volusia County, what's primarily the teachers' union office, this is a provision not unlike that which is in the Volusia County teacher's contract, and that's a provision of release time associated with the president's position. You'll find that in paragraph 4.
Who's the president?
The gentleman sitting next to me, Brody Hughes, is the current president. And it's just standard release language.
Well, it's an expansion upon what currently is, right?
It is an expansion upon the release time, the leave release time that's currently provided. That's correct. But the language itself, in terms of this type of release, is fairly standard. By that I mean the right to return to the position, no loss of seniority, the continuation of benefits.
So, kind of just from a quick eyeball of the proposals that you've given so far, my takeaway is that your proposal is to reduce management rights and expand union rights.
Oh, I don't think that's I don't think it's susceptible to such a generic categorization like that. I think it's always a balance, and there's always a give and take. And we have certain items that we're proposing, and we'll be proposing in subsequent articles. Ideally, everything will balance itself out as give and take. But I noted, as compared to other contracts that I've negotiated, or my colleagues at IUPA have negotiated, that it just seemed like the language was a bit more expansive than it is in other agreements in terms of what is indicated as management rights in this particular contract.
Well, I will take you at your word, and I will look forward to the articles that provide us something about that.
Well, and you certainly can propose articles that will.
Well, you just said you were going to balance it out later on, so.
Well, I was simply meaning that negotiations in and of itself is a balance.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I understand,
That's not allowed, I mean.
But no, but look, in all seriousness, I mean, you do recognize that the first 13 articles that you gave us, you're reducing our management rights, you're reducing our rights with respect to the ability to implement policies and procedures, and you're expanding union representation rights.
Well, that's right. I mean, the articles that we gave you are very specific. Some are continue to remain status quo as they previously were in the Teamsters contract. So, in terms of material changes, I think this is a fair mix of articles which have been changed, those which haven't been changed. I think the articles are susceptible to a myriad of different categorizations. I would say that there's now a more appropriate balance of management rights as compared to how it was previously. And then what I think is the absolute most important topic for this contract negotiations for the union, and I don't think I step out of bounds by saying this, is wages. Certainly the dollars and cents always are the most substantial topics of interest to both sides in contract negotiations. But we thought that because of how substantial and important this issue is, especially to rectify, in the interest of rectifying a problem that we've observed in terms of how the bargaining members are paid, we want to bring it up early in the very first session that we're having, both to emphasize its importance and to pass out, as we have at the end of the table there, a wage survey that was based on public records obtained by our international union.
Just not to cut you off, but do you have an actual wage proposal?
Our wage proposal will be forthcoming.
Okay.
And part of that is, although it is a bit unconventional, oftentimes, and I'm not proposing that we engage in interest-based bargaining per se, meaning the goal is a certain wage increase, let's work together on how to get there. I was hoping to discern, and the union was hoping to discern, and perhaps get some input so that we could structure our proposal in a way that might in fact be more feasible right out of the gate, as opposed to something that would just be perhaps instantly subject to rejection by the employer. So,
Well, I don't instantly reject anything.
okay,
I mean, the thing is that if you give me a wage proposal, regardless of what it is, I'm gonna cost it out, I'm gonna take it to the sheriff, I'm gonna take it to the manager, and I'm gonna take it to the elected officials.
oh, of course, and I
Right.
certainly,
Right.
allow me to correct my previous
Yeah.
phrasing. I don't think that, I certainly wouldn't expect that any wage proposal would be instantly rejected. But what I'm simply trying to say here is that upon first blush and looking at something, one can usually discern if this is a non-starter or if it's something that might have, get some movement. And without beating around the bush, we've, I think, got a serious issue as far as how deputies and sergeants are paid here in Volusia County as compared to other sheriff's offices. And without, beating around the bush too much, I think our principal goal is having some type of step plan in place. And of course, there are lots of different incarnations of step plans at various sheriff's offices and police departments throughout the state. And, in terms of how to structure that actual step plan, that's something that's sort of the conversation that we would like to have, to sort of take the temperature and see, how many steps versus less steps. Perhaps talk more collaboratively about that concept and how to structure it in a way that might be, that the county might be amenable to. With that being said, I think there's some underlying information that is important to explore, because certainly this is not one of these negotiations where we're coming to the table and saying, we deserve a wage increase because we deserve a wage increase. I think as a general statement, there should be some sort of substantive base for a wage increase, and in this case, it exists here in spades. And what I mean by that is, it appears that there's both a problem with retention of deputies, bargaining unit members, as well as the ability to recruit. Brody will be able to give you some more specifics in terms of how both of these situations exist at the sheriff's office, but I think we have also, everybody has a copy, okay. What this study does is reviews a number of different police departments and sheriff's offices, and I'll let Brody chime in here as to why these counties or departments as opposed to others.
Well, what we looked to do on this was to create an apples-to-apples comparison of our wages to other sheriff's offices. That way there's no trying to say, well, this place contributes to their pension, this place doesn't. If you compare a sheriff's office to sheriff's office, everybody contributes 3%. Just about every sheriff's office that I'm aware of in the state has a take-home car policy. So there shouldn't be this, like we've had in the past, where, well, we're gonna discount this because of that. You know, we wanted to bring forward to you guys a document that compares us on plane with everybody else. So what we looked at is, or the parameters that we placed on it were looking at it based by agency size and population of the county. The Volusia County is currently 10th in the state as far as population, and they fall about the same for the agency size of the sheriff's office. So we took the first 9 sheriff's offices, we added Volusia County Sheriff's Office to be 10, and then, you know, we added a couple behind it to show you sheriff's offices that are just below Volusia County in size and population. And then the one that we did pull from another area that was further down the list was the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, because they are a sister county. So as we...
They're a sister county because they're contiguous?
They're a sister county because
they're next door?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
By contiguous, they're...
Yeah.
You know, and look, I don't disagree with you, is that we should be looking at the counties that touch us, because that is kind of your local operating area. But if you're gonna do that, you wanna touch all of the counties. And so the thing is that while you have Seminole, Brevard, you have Seminole, Brevard, and Flagler, you don't have Lake, and you don't have Putnam. And I understand what your argument is with respect to size, but they are contiguous counties. And so if you're gonna apply that methodology, that you're gonna look at all of the counties that surround us, then you have to look at all of them.
Well, the goal wasn't to look at necessarily the counties that surround us, but I mean, if you'd like us to add in Lake County, they do make more than us also.
I'm just saying is that if you're gonna use that methodology, but let me just ask you, in what way are you arguing that Miami-Dade PD, which has a population of serves a population of 2.6 million, has 2,685 employees, is a valid comparator to Volusia County Sheriff's Office?
Again, what we had tried to do to show you guys where everybody was at was to start at the top and work our way down and say, okay, if you start at number 1, you work your way down, okay, comparatively, looking at those numbers, okay, here's where Volusia County rests. They're number 10 in the state by population and size of an agency. So what we were trying to demonstrate there was that, okay, we expect Miami-Dade County to make more money than the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. We're not sitting here trying to suggest that we should make Miami-Dade money. But we believe that the Volusia County Sheriff's Office needs to be somewhere closer towards the 10th spot in the state and not being down around 28 or 29.
They're 10 based on what? Officer population or population served, or?
The size of the sheriff's office is the 10th largest sheriff's office in the state, and also by population.
And if I can also chime in to say, unions don't necessarily have to perform these types of studies when a county does them regularly, and we think this is data that the county should be endeavoring to explore itself.
Except that never in a million years would we be even looking at what Miami-Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach County, look at, or what Pasco's County. We look at local market area.
I mean, we would absolutely love to see any, personnel studies, any comparators that the county has or wants to design. Without, I believe, gosh, Brody, how long has it been approximately since?
Better than 10 years since the county's done a wage study for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, and in that time, you negotiated a whole bunch of contracts, and you all could have done the same study.
We have done studies, we have presented studies, and they get discredited at the
You
table.
all agreed to the contracts at the table every time.
Well, we're here for the one that.
Right, and I understand that, and, it doesn't, let's not digress, let's move forward. I agree.
Well, I think the one point that can't be parsed out, because I think certainly it's possible to argue that perhaps other counties or other sheriff's offices maybe, you should add this one or subtract this one, or you can come up with a lot of different thoughts on perhaps, how comprehensive, how few should be included, but I think the overall point is one that glaringly can't be ignored, and that is what the what the overall pay is, and more specifically, not just, the starting pay, but there's a serious issue with respect to wage compression. So, and I think what highlights that especially is, if you look at, for example, page 12, the average salaries of deputies, and it breaks it down after a certain number of years of service, and you can see a departure, and also very small increases, and sometimes because of raises that have been given in subsequent years, people who have more years are making barely more than, and sometimes less than, other employees who have been there less time. And so what that ends up doing is creating, well, it inhibits desire to stay in this, with this particular sheriff's office. If there's another opportunity elsewhere, folks have transferred and are transferring, and then it also impacts whether or not someone wants to come to Volusia County in the first place, to have their career with the sheriff's office here, or perhaps a neighboring county where they could make more money, quite frankly. So between, and all this data is data which is based solely on public records. But you can see, and the same goes for sergeants as well, how the pay differs considerably from other sheriff's offices.
All right, so let's, look, I haven't had an opportunity to look behind any of these numbers, but let's assume that they're all correct, that exactly what you're saying is correct, and that there needs to be an adjustment on the range, and there needs to be something to be done with respect to compression. What are you proposing?
Well, see, we will in subsequent sessions have something more definitive on pay, but we wanted to get the wheels started now on our conversation about it. That this study is directly a product of effort that the union has engaged in to try to have a full and fleshed out and comprehensive discussion about wages. And one of the most vital pieces, we think, is quite frankly what folks are making elsewhere. So early in the game to have this type of information, I think, is a distinct advantage.
Right, but look, you've been doing this long enough, I've been doing this long enough, and we could sit here and argue till the cows come home, as far as whether any of these particular agencies are valid comparators. That's not going to get the issue. The issue is that you've identified what you believe to be a problem, and assuming you're correct, what are you proposing to do, and what's it going to cost us?
Well,
And that's really, at the end of the day, that's going to resolve this issue. And I'm not saying, that, we don't appreciate the fact that you put this together, because it's helpful to know why it is you're proposing what you're proposing. But without the actual numbers, so that we can evaluate it, this is just kind of numbers in a vacuum.
well, if you want to foreclose conversation about wages until we actually have a concrete proposal, then, certainly that may be the county's prerogative, but our goal was to start the conversation on this issue, and to make sure that the county was privy to the data that the union has and worked hard to assemble, as the county has no personnel studies of its own. And we wanted to also emphasize, because this is the very first contract session, not just in this, for this collective bargaining agreement, but between the parties in general, we thought it especially important to emphasize that wages is the absolute #1 issue, and that we believe, whether or not, we could argue until the cows come home, or regardless of the county's impression, that there's a serious problem here in terms of both attrition and folks who are transferring out of the county, and inability to get folks to apply. And so those are other hard statistics and data. This is simply one piece of the puzzle.
Do you have that data?
We don't have that data at the moment, but I'm sure, well, not only does the county have that data, but.
Well, but you're the one that's making the assertion that we're having this issue. What data do you have to support that assertion?
Well, at this present moment, what we have are a series of, it's know-how based on facts gathered from inquiry. So, and this is all in the effort of having a conversation. If you wanna, if you don't wanna talk meat and bones until we have an actual proposal on the table, we're fine and happy to
But
do
Holly, what I'm
that.
telling you is I'm more than happy to have that conversation with respect to where the wage ranges should be, what should be done about compression. I'm not foreclosing that. I'm just saying is that I can't have an intelligent conversation about it without knowing what it is that you believe is necessary to fix the problem that you're identifying.
Well, I think long and short of it is an increase. What that actually shapes up to be is something that we'll provide you in a standard, normal form proposal. But as the county, to my knowledge, didn't have any such assemblage of data, we thought it might be helpful, as this is the first session, to know what data that we have looked at and examined as far as pay comparators. So just to inform our conversations as we proceed, especially with wages when there is a real concrete reason to justify an increase, that's when information is even more essential. So the more we think that you can have up front, the more we can have up front, the more of an educated decision and educated process we can have.
Well, we appreciate the effort that put in this. I mean, no, seriously, obviously there was a lot of work that went into this, and we appreciate it.
And simply also to emphasize the importance of the issue as well. So there are no bones about it when it comes to this priority. And Brody, can you perhaps speak to some of those additional details about why this situation has really, come to a head, if you will, or why there is perhaps a need as greater than a need before?
And I kind of going to your point about data, and I'm going to put Captain Summers on this one. I know Ms. Pridgeon's new in her position, but the last number that I heard is that we were somewhere around 50 positions short. We're hemorrhaging positions faster than we can fill them right now, and it's just a matter of time before somebody gets hurt.
Why are they leaving?
Because of pay.
No. Are you sure you got that data? Can you provide me
Well,
that data?
let me ask you this.
And where are they going?
Are these folks going to other law enforcement agencies?
Yes.
Okay, who are we losing to other law enforcement agencies?
I know one from the other day that put in his resignation because he's gonna move to Montana and take a 49% pay increase up there to be a law enforcement officer. Now, that's not comparative to local economy, but, several years ago, I lost a young man to the Tampa Police Department because he went
Several
from
years ago?
making, well, within the last 3 years, he went from making $37,000 here to $49,500 there. So yes, we're losing people because of pay, and we have a morale problem because of pay. We have guys in this agency currently that are making within a dollar or two of what they started at better than 10 years ago.
$1 or $2 what they started at?
Yeah.
How can that be? They've been getting 3% wage increases every year. How can that be?
Because the starting salary was lower when they started.
But it's not the same pay. You can't say they're within $1 of the same pay. That's not correct.
So you're
If I
compressing
made
it.
$30,000 3 years ago, you're saying I'm making $30,001 today. That cannot be. That cannot be.
They are within a dollar or two of current starting pay.
Your starting pay, but not when you say the pay, that's incorrect. Because you can't say, if I made, my example would be $30,000, and I'm making $1 more than I did 3 years ago, that would be $30,001. That is totally incorrect.
What I would like to say at this moment is, our general intention was to raise the issue, and the
I get it.
union has an opinion based on what it's perceived from working with the membership, working within the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. We would be exceptionally happy to provide you with individualized,
Please do.
detailed examples, should you desire them. They're also entirely within the custody and control of the county as well.
Right,
So-
but the thing is that, yes, they are within the custody of county, control of the county, but the thing is that when we're looking at the data, we're seeing different things than the data, than you're taking away from the
Would you
data.
like, can you bring that forward to us so that we can see what you are looking at?
Sure, we can go ahead and we could very easily pull the turnover and identify, who's, when we terminate somebody from employment for cause, that's not turnover. I mean, that's not turnover attributed to wages. If somebody works their normal retirement, they enter drop, and then they drop, that's not normal retirement. And look, Freddie, I'm not sitting here, and frankly, I was trying to avoid this conversation because I didn't want to get into this back and forth over what the data is, who's right, who's wrong. What I want to do is I want to get to the point where we got proposals in front of us and see if we can come up with something that works, both from the standpoint of that's going to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish for the membership. But look, keep in mind is that we have a budget, and I have to, and when I say I, on this side, ultimately, I can't do something that isn't supported by the budget. And so we're going to have to ultimately try to come up with some way where we can accommodate both issues. We're not going to do it by arguing over whether or not Joe Blow left to go to Montana because he loves big sky country or because he got a better job. And I think you're right. I mean, I understand why you raised this issue. And we get it, that wages is a very important issue to the union and something that we're willing to sit down and have some serious discussions about.
Just one last point, and Captain Summers may know the answer to this. How many background check requests has Seminole County Sheriff's Office made to Volusia County here in the last couple of months? As I'm hearing, it's over 20. That's 20 deputies looking to go elsewhere.
We've done that. I mean, we'll look into it. Yeah.
Well, and so in that regard, okay, our mission has been accomplished.
Yes.
We have raised the notion that that it's the union's impression, I think it's the members' impression, I think that there is a serious issue about discrepancy in pay. That is our opinion, that is what we've stated, and we have set it forth as a priority. This is just some of the data that we are relying on as we continue to accumulate additional data. Our hope is to have a conversation that's not simply founded in opinion, but that we're able to provide you what we have as it progresses, because in the interest of when we do have a proposal, it can be a genuine and true back and forth. So we can also have any additional data that we receive, we can provide it to you. We want to have as comprehensive of a picture as we can when these crucial decisions are being made. So, and I certainly know that you've heard the speech about how the folks who are sitting out there put their lives at risk every single day, and I don't need to belabor that.
Great group of folks.
But it's
Absolutely.
very true.
Look, I know that when it comes to union negotiations, people tend to think that because we disagree with respect to a proposal on wages or benefit, that we don't like law enforcement, that we don't care about them. That's just not the case. It's a good group of folks. We appreciate every day the job that they do. And my hat's off to every single person that goes out there and puts on the uniform, wears the badge. They have my utmost respect. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with every proposal on the table. And I would just hope that when we go through this process, and we are going to have disagreements, because there's never been in negotiations where you haven't had disagreements, and there's probably going to be times that we're going to walk out here not happy with each other. And that's the way it works. But I just hope that at the end of the day, folks realize that we're all trying to do a job and get to a place where we can get a contract that we can live with. And none of it's meant to be personal.
One,
And I'm not saying that you're suggesting that you were, saying that, but I just want to make sure that everybody who hasn't been involved in the negotiation process and they're looking from the outside in, isn't thinking that just because we're disagreeing on something, it's an indication that we think less of them as employees.
Well, there may be times, both in, as there have been in this session and subsequent sessions, where the opinions of the union, based on opinions received from membership, need to be conveyed. It may not explicitly be tied to a proposal, but it may be part of the overall conversation. And so that's all. We wanted to highlight the importance of the wage issue. And I'm sure we can pick out individual examples, but I mean, suffice it to say that we're here not simply because it's a gratuitous ask. We think that there are bases in fact, and we invite you to explore those within your own data. We'll share what we have, and we will present something to you in a subsequent session that we can zero in on and go to the mat on, if you will, however you'd like to phrase it. But suffice it to say, you are now aware of our number one priority with this contract. And that's what behooved us, is to emphasize that as we sat down for the first time today.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Do you folks have any proposals for us today?
No.
Okay. Do you have any idea of when we may be able to have the first set or?
When you give us an entire contract. I mean, I'm not piecemeal negotiating the contract. If you give us an entire proposal, we'll give you an entire counter.
Just wanted to see what your
Yeah.
intentions were
Yeah,
as
no,
far
that-
as the
that is-
introduction of proposals.
Yeah.
So, because certainly,
Yeah.
we're not required to give you an entire
Of course
proposal
not.
before we receive proposals from you
Sure.
folks. But I just wanted to see what the intention was.
Well, but the thing is that you've already told me that, there's, look, if I just sat here right now and looking at these proposals in a vacuum, there's very little that I would agree to. At least, and when I say agree to, obviously, that's me just talking personally. Ultimately, I'm gonna talk to the team and they're gonna make the ultimate decision on this, but what we have right now, to the larger extent, is a package of proposal taking away our rights and giving the union more. And, we may very well agree to some of these things, depending upon what we do with some of the other articles. And so, I'm not taking the position that we need to see an entire contract just to be a jerk and say, we gotta get everything on the table, but as you know, these, it's an entire contract and things tie in, and sometimes you're willing to give on this article if you can get something on another article. And so that's the reason that I take the position that I wanna see the entire proposal, especially when we're talking about wages. And I assume you're gonna have some other proposals where you're gonna have some asks that are gonna cost money in addition to the wage increases.
Well, there are a number of different approaches to take with negotiations.
Sure.
You can give all the proposals at once. You can, as your priority, you can do it in order of priority. I was simply trying to discern what we can expect from you
Yeah.
folks. I do think it's a bit unconventional, however, to not provide a single proposal about priority issues to the county until all proposals from the union have been received. That itself is a bit unconventional.
It's the way I've negotiated for 30 years.
But that's.
So I guess I've been unconventional for 30 years.
Well, that's not
I've been
necessarily.
accused of worse.
Not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's important for housekeeping to know, what the county's intentions are. So that's the nature of that question. Is it easier, do you have any questions? I understand there are no proposals. Is there anything that we provided that you want to inquire about at this time?
No, I think we've pretty much asked the questions that we need to, I think we have a good understanding of what you're asking for, understand this and understand understand the proposal. No, we have nothing else?
And is it easier to wait until you have access to your calendar I'd like to try to keep things trucking along and obtain a subsequent date, in terms of the procedure to do that. I mean, I have my calendar. I'm happy to take it out right here and plan something. I don't know what's best procedurally for the county.
You know what, if you could give me some proposed dates, I can send you an email tomorrow morning. As soon as I go back, I would, under normal circumstances, I would just call my office manager, keep my calendar, but she's recovering from a hospitalization, so I need to actually go in and get the calendar. And I'm happy to go ahead and schedule some dates.
Great.
And get this thing moving forward. I kind of heard some murmuring back there that, it's been 6 months and, without a pay increase. Kick me if you want, but why don't, it's no secret that 3% was budgeted by the county for this year for pay increases. Tell you right now, go ahead and we give you 3% across the board, retroactive to October 1, and close out this fiscal year that we're currently in, and keep these negotiations going forward for a contract that starts October 1 of 2017, and this way these folks get some money in their pocket while we're moving through these issues.
Well, if you'd like to propose that, but I've heard that you don't want to provide us with anything until
Would
we've
you-
actually given
would-
you all our contract.
No, I'm
proposals,
just saying,
but-
just, just leave everything the way it is right now for this current year. Keep doing what we're doing, take 3%, you're okay with that? 3%, give everybody a 3% pay increase retroactive to October 1. And that just forecloses negotiations for fiscal year 16, 17. And then the contract that we're negotiating right now, these proposals will be for a contract that starts for fiscal year 17, 18. This way these folks have money in their pocket, not asking for anything in return, and you're negotiating a contract going forward with 3% more in your pocket.
So if that's an actual proposal.
That's an actual proposal.
Then I would appreciate something being conveyed in writing as is customary, when contract proposals are delivered. There, so we have something in our hands as far as the nitty-gritty, as everybody knows the devil's in the details. And, certainly, if that's an option, we'll take it back and discuss it and come back to you with our position on that.
All right, what dates do you have that you want us to look at?
Going to be back in the county office next week for the week after.
That, I have 2 arbitration hearings, I have an arbitration hearing on the 21st.
I got one the last week of June.
The week of the 19th.
I have, aren't we together on the 19th?
That's right. That is the day
Yeah.
within that week that I'm.
Oh, that's why you're here. Okay.
We want to talk about the 21st, 22nd.
20th, or, I can't do 21, but 20, 22, 23.
The 20th, 22nd, and 23rd.
Let me check on it. 22nd, 23rd.
That's ambitious on my schedule without, just, I just know, that's ambitious for me.
All right, well, let me see what I can do as far as cobbling a team together. Try.
Is the team static, your team, or?
No, that's why I said I'll let it cobble the team together. It's,
Okay.
to the extent possible, I'm gonna try to avoid not holding sessions just because, one person's not available. If we can do the negotiations, without somebody, in somebody's absence, I'm gonna try to get the negotiations done. So I don't know how you all feel about that, whether or not, your team's static or you have to have everybody there, but, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay. So then you'll email me back about the.
Yeah, I'll email you tomorrow. Super. Well, it's nice to finally meet you.
Likewise. We have a lot of work to do.
We'll get it done. Okay, we're done.